This video will cover another data type called tuple. So I'm going to start with list because they are related to each other. All right. So I'm going to start with a list that we had states. Let's run that. And then if you notice in the previous videos, I used a function called enumerate to get each item and its index all together. So this is how we use it for item in enumerate of states, print item. Let me print that one more time, and you are going to see that what we are getting is index of 0 and state of DC, index 1 state Virginia, and so on and so forth. So this data type, we haven't defined this, that you are enclosing items inside parentheses. Keep this in mind that what we had earlier, list states, if I call this again, it encloses items inside square brackets. But if I put same things inside parentheses, it's a completely different data types. All right, so let's define cities. All right, cities equal to, this time I'm going to put them inside parentheses. I'm going to name it New York and San Diego, and the other one is LA, and let's call one more. Let's call it DC. All right, if I call type of cities, it's going to say it's tuple. All right, it's a different data type. This is a data type that it's similar to list, but there's a fundamental difference. It's similar because it's also indexed from 0. You can access its members from 0. It's fundamentally different because once you create a tuple, you cannot modify it. All right, once you create a tuple, you cannot modify it. What do I mean by that? Well, let me give you just an early example. Well, cities index 1, I want to change that to index 1 right now is San Diego. I want to change it to San Francisco. All right, and let's see what we are going to get. It's going to say tuple object does not support item assignment, meaning you cannot change the items. All right, if I go back and check cities, it is going to say still it's the same thing. Once you create a tuple, it is going to stay there. You cannot modify it. All right, but it is used quite often. So let me just give you, this data type is used quite often. Let me give you a few examples on how we can create it, and one or two of its methods. You can create an empty tuple. I'm going to say tuple underscore 1 is equal to just inside parentheses with I'm sorry, that's wrong. Inside parentheses, nothing. All right, that is empty tuple. Let's call type of tuple 1. All right, and it's going to say it's tuple. If you notice, I made a mistake with that comma inside parentheses. That is used when you are creating a tuple with one member. All right, let me give you an example. Tuple 2 is equal to, let's call this Los Angeles. All right, and if I call type of tuple 2, it's going to say it is a string. Right, but that's not what I wanted. Right, that's not what I wanted. What's happening is that it ignores these parentheses, and it says that tuple 2 is actually a string. To make sure that we communicate with Python that the tuple that has one member, it's not really string. I want it to be tuple. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use that comma at the end just to communicate with Python that this indeed, I want this to be a tuple. All right, we are going to define tuple 3 equal to, one more time, LA, Los Angeles, and comma. This time, if I ask for type of a tuple 3, it is going to give me tuple. All right. This is an exception only for tuples with one members that oftentimes we don't really use them, but it's out there. Now the rest of tuples, when we create them, we really have more than one item. Let me. Usually, this is how we create tuples. You need to list their members. Another way of creating tuple is creating tuple from using tuple function. All right. Remember, we had states. This is a list. If you want to convert this to tuple, you can use tuple function. I'm going to say tuple 3. This is 3 4 is equal to tuple of states and give me tuple 4, and it is going to convert that to a tuple. Now that you have created tuple 4, you cannot modify it. All right, you cannot say tuple 4 dot append let's say California. Let's see what's going to happen. If you try to add something to that tuple, you are going to say that tuple object has no attribute append. It's not defined, it's not there, you cannot modify it. All right, if you try to, and this is I'm going to just stop there. The one more way of creating tuple is creating them from a string. All right, but you got to be a little bit careful with this one. Let me show you one example. Tuple 5 is equal to, I'm going to use a tuple function, but this time instead of passing list to it, I'm going to pass a string. All right, and I'm going to pass a string of, let's say, Python, and let's look at tuple 5, and you are going to see that what's happening is that because a string of Python itself is iterable, you can go over its characters one by one. When you pass it inside tuple function, it is going to take each of those characters and it's going to make that one member of the tuple. All right. Tuple doesn't really have much methods, and you can figure that out by simply saying, you know what, tuple 5 dot tab. You see that it just says count and index. That's pretty much it. You can use count or index, but if you I want you to compare this with let me go to I think our states was a list, right? So if I write states dot tab, you see that you have a bunch of lists or methods here. So because you can modify list, it offers methods for modifying it, but you cannot modify tuples, so it has limited number of methods. So just to let me get rid of this, and tuple 5. It's that if I, again, one more time, if I say, you know what, tuple 5, I want to change item in index 3, I want this to be letter Z, it's going to give you error. All right, this tuple is going to come back again later on. I want to make sure you are comfortable with it. Something that is a common between tuple and a list is zero-based indices. So let me look at tuple 5. It is those letters. You can say, give me tuple 5 at index 2 to 4. All right. It is going to give you T and H, index 2 and 3, right? So 0, 1, 2, and 3, T and H. All right. And of course, index 4 does not count. You can say, give me tuple 5 from indices 2 forward, right? It's going to give you everything from index 2 all the way till end. Let's have a look at that. So 0, 1, 2, T, and all the way till end. All right. Again, keep this in mind. Tuple is going to come back over and over again in specific situations where there's no need for modification of the content, but we are going to use mostly with list.